Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts families. So, guys, the tarot cards. So many people are very familiar with tarot, but perhaps they don't understand it deep down. And then again, there's all these different layers. As we get deeper and deeper into a practice, we uncover deeper and deeper layers, and things speak to us clearer and clearer. So with the tarot, that's something I've been doing for probably around 33, 34 years, in that range. And it's really developed over time as a practice. And interesting, because I see tea here with loose leaf tea leaves. And on my mother's side, my grandmother and great grandma would always read tea leaves. It was just a practice in our family. So that was another interesting practice. But the tarot is what we're going to be talking about. And there's so many different tarot spreads. And really, the key is just find what speaks to you. And if you've ever gone shopping for, say, crystals, for instance, things along those lines, again, it's very important to do it in person with a crystal, because each one has its own unique energy. It's actually a being. It's a living entity. And the cards are kind of like living entities in a way as well. Each one of them has a life of their own as far as the individual cards and also the decks. And so something might resonate with you, it might not resonate with me, or something might resonate with me, it might not resonate with you. Everyone is unique, and then also for the period in our life in which we are in. So when I first started the practice, as everybody does, for the most part, everybody starts out with the Rider-Waite cards, which are the traditional ones. I went to the Thoth cards. I was studying the Golden Dawn, and obviously, Crowley was a member of the Golden Dawn, albeit a dark one in some ways. But I loved the deck. The deck was imaginative, expressive. It was what I guess it was where I was at that period in time. And as time has gone on, there's almost like, I wouldn't say an aversion, but at the same time, I don't resonate with it anymore. I just don't. It was part of my past, but not part of who I am now. And so this is the favorite deck I use for most of my readings, the Psychic Tarot. It's just a very clear read for me. It just seems extremely clear. And so that's one of the things. Something you want to look for, a deck that speaks to you clearly. And again, each person is totally different. It's completely an individual thing. But for me, these cards are very, very expressive, simple, clear. I don't really have to think about it so much. It's just like, the meanings are there immediately. I don't have to really look deeper because it's just right there. And again, it's something that just comes to us over time, and using the decks, they'll speak to us clearer the more we use them. If you guys have followed any of my readings that I've done, we have over a dozen decks. I had probably like 8 or 9, and Cindy has probably about the same, so together we have close to 20 decks. And some of the ones that she has have been speaking to me more and more as well. And one of them is this one, the Tarot Illuminati, and the other one is Tarot Apocalypse. They're both done by the same people, and beautifully expressive. And I think it's actually the Apocalypse one that has some of the gods in it as well. So that to me speaks really clear, as I've always been into the mythology of comparative mythology. Some beautiful colors, and just vibrant and expressive. And again, this is something that's hitting the right brain, the right side of the brain. So, the left side is all analytical. The right side is totally different. And the right side is much more sensual and intuitive. And so when we see stuff like this, it speaks to the right side of the brain. And then, of course, we have the left side that always wants to analyze everything. So there's a little bit of a period of getting used to shifting between different sides and different wavelengths, and letting images and impressions come through to you. It's something that takes time, because at first, when you're first reading the tarot, everybody's different again. Some people are extremely intuitive and can automatically just start reading from a very, very deep intuitive place. Others will have to actually analyze everything, and breaks down to understanding that the 4 different suits represent the elements, as we see pentacles, and of course in each tarot deck, they might not be the same. So you might not have the traditional ones. Like you have pentacles, swords, wands, and cups, which again are representing basically earth, air, fire, and water. And so they're representing the elements. Now, again, not all of them are the same, and some of them don't have the traditional suits. And that's fine, because again, it's all about what you connect with deep down. And as cups, elemental water, it's about emotions. It expresses the inner workings as well. And whereas we could look and talk about wands being fire, and so this is stuff that generates energy and warmth, a fiery spirit. It could indicate a lot of different things there as well. The swords are the intellect, and earth, obviously there's a lot of different ways of looking at this as well. Is something that is so individual, and that's the thing to really get across with the tarot. Again, there are the traditional ways you could do things, but as you go deeper and deeper in, it's really going to be just all about triggering that psychic part of you, which is real. We have more than the standard senses, the standard 5 senses. So there's a lot more to us than meets the eye, and we are all interconnected. We are basically in this giant ocean, each one of us an individual drop in this giant ocean of consciousness. And so we really can tie into each other. Quantum physics talks about quantum entanglement. That's why all this works. Amazing, amazing, amazing how a few decades changes perception. Because it wasn't too long ago that so many people, the vast majority, would look at these things and think they're superstitious, there's no scientific basis. But with quantum physics, we understand it's completely scientific. There's every single scientific basis to understand why something like a tarot reading would actually work. And it's the same thing when we get into the astrological reading, like the Vedic astrology charts that Cindy does as well, which, the feedback has been just amazingly positive from people there. So you have your traditional steps, right? And, you just notice, perceive. But also, you have to get in contact with the questioner, whoever it is that's asking you for a reading. So, if I'm reading somebody, I like to kind of get an impression of them. You don't have to see the person. So often when I do distance work, I like to get a photo if we're not connecting on Skype or we're not connecting on Facebook Messenger, and in which to go ahead and connect to their energies. But I've had people test me before and not give me a photo or anything. And I've had clients that say they're going to be in their apartment at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please, scan and do an energy session and just tell us what your impressions are. And, we can do that. We can do that without any information as well. It is something that we can do. We can connect on this because we're all connected. Again, quantum entanglement explains it, and we are all connected. One of the things that's so interesting about the tarot, while they do have their traditional meanings, and so you could think of like the aces are all about beginnings, for instance, as we look into this, tarot numerology. There's numerology to it, and bless you, Zeke. Aces are about beginnings, twos, choices, duality, balance, reflection, threes, growth, creativity, birth, synergy. Each number has its traditional meaning But again, sometimes you might get an impression where there might be something that's slightly different than the traditional meaning. And over time, you'll learn to trust that impression. And then the court cards have their correspondences as well. So like the Page of Cups, potential for new relationships and emotional fulfillment. Whereas if we go over to the Knight of Swords, opportunity for decisive action. And if we look at the Queen of Wands, satisfaction on a passionate and enthusiastic level. Again, thinking fiery. And say the King of Cups, stability that comes from knowing your emotional self. So again, each has its own meaning. And then you have the major arcana, which again vary in some degrees. This is more the traditional. So the Fool, we see beginnings. If we want to look at something like the Hermit, it's introspection. It's going within, right? So when we look at the Devil, it could relate to materialism. And the Tower could be a rude awakening. The Sun is life. The Moon can be the deception or something that's hidden, something that's shadowy. Judgment is rebirth. And the World is accomplishment. And again, you might feel like there's something a little bit different there. It's all about your intuition, so trust it. So there's many different spreads you could use, and this is one I've used on myself one time when I was really, really, really stressed about things and making a huge life-changing decision. So I honestly don't like to read for myself. It's kind of a phobia with me. I don't want to know. So not in detail, so I leave that kind of open. I have no problem reading for others. I love to read for others. But I'm very careful about when I read for myself. But I did, when I went and was starting all this, I did do a reading, and it showed that it was going to work out just fine, and that things were going to blossom really well, and they did. And that was for the first year of basically starting a new business. And I do read my own relationship, and that's one of the things that is probably most requested. And I taught Cindy this spread recently, and she did a reading for a client. And
oh my gosh, it was the best reading. I'm not going to mention any names, but this person was having a problem with a neighbor and wanted to know if her concerns were legitimate. And sure enough, it turned up that there was a serious problem. So I told her, I said, well, let's not necessarily manifest you having to move, because that's not an option, but let's think about him moving. And the next day she texted me and she says, guess who's moving? So, it just helped her confirm her thoughts and suspicions. It was rock solid, dead on, and we were able to manifest and help adjust the situation for her.
And so, yeah, it's one of those readings that, again, is the most common one. People want to know what's really going on. So I've always done this reading when I am about to get into a major relationship, and I did it with Cindy. I didn't tell her, but I knew everything was going to be just so harmonious between us. It was such a exceptional reading. And I've actually done it before and not gone along with what the reading said in a previous relationship. And the reading showed I was going to basically, it would be an act of self-sacrifice, and it wouldn't be a positive relationship. And yet I chose to ignore them, and boy, did it come true. It came completely true to the point of abuse, actual physical abuse, where the person in the relationship literally was physically attacking me as well, and just attacking on every level. And the cards showed that, and I chose to ignore them, so I won't do that again. But we're good now, because it was interesting how this turned out. And I have a friend that does human design, and did it on me and Cindy, and we just fit like a perfect glove. So I had the spread, I had the human design background, the astrological background on us. I mean, we knew we fit like a glove, and we do. We fit absolutely perfect. But the first thing I did was what I call the relationship game. And so I do it a little bit different. Instead of the subconscious, I do one card which shows the mask that the other person's doing to the other, giving the other. Because often we don't show our true self at first. We kind of put on a little bit of show. Perhaps when we first meet somebody, we're on our best behavior. And then as we get comfortable, we kind of let loose, and maybe, you guys out there leave the toilet sink up. Maybe the lady doesn't put the cap back on the toothpaste. I mean, who knows? It could be little things like that, as we get comfortable. Well, that's what the first card is, the mask that they're showing each other. And then the thoughts, and then the feelings, and then the overall vibe of the relationship. How is this going to work? And so, that's one that I've done probably more than like any. But, I also do the traditional Celtic cross as well, which you might have seen, which gives you a really good in-depth reading. So I just wanted to bring that to you guys. And again, as you go along, you might find that and you should find that it's just a tool for your intuition. It helps solidify what you're already getting impression-wise. And I've had tarot cards come out like 6 days in a row after shuffling and splitting, and it comes out like 6 days in a row, the same card or cards. Then I know, oh, there is something important here. There's a recurring theme. I got to really pay attention to this. And, the likelihood of something like that happening is just so infinitesimal, so small. So I take it as, being a strong message when you get the repeating cards. So my friends, as always, I want to invite you to join us on Patreon. We're at 93 Patreons. Exciting. We want to break 100. We thank you guys for your support. It does keep us going. Also on Ko-Fi as well for a one-time donation to help support the channel. And tarot readings are available, and we welcome you guys to do that as well, in Vedic readings, astrologically with Miss Cindy. So as always, my friends, like, share, subscribe. I look forward to your comments. God bless, and namaste.